Hello, everyone. Good evening. We're going to let everybody kind of filter into the webinar. We'll give it just another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll get started. Awesome. Looks like we've got a good group popping in here, Terry. So this will be awesome. Well, everyone, welcome. My name is Chad Erickson. I'm the Vice President of Strategy at MyAdvice. And I am super excited to have everyone here this evening, and especially excited to have our guest Terri Ross with us tonight. Terry, yeah, I'll give you a formal introduction, but oh my gosh, I was thinking about the experience that you and I have. I'm in my 24th year of consulting practice owners on their marketing. And I know you've been doing this, I think, at least as long as that.
I was like,
so
don't
collectively,
don't age me, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, I know, but we've got a lot of wisdom here, and I'm excited to be able to share a lot of that with our audience tonight. But I think you and I have known each other for at least 12 or 13 years,
Yeah.
and have crossed, paths, for a long time, which is awesome. But for everyone coming in tonight, super excited to have you, and got someone raising their hand. If you've got a question, go ahead, if you wouldn't mind, put it in the Q&A section. And we've got I'm gonna moderate tonight. I'm gonna kind of filter a lot of these questions, and so we'll be doing that. And then also you could raise your hand, I can unmute you. So we definitely want to keep this interactive throughout. So that'll be good. So please interact with us. And Juliet, I see you got your hand raised. I'm going to lower that, but if you do have a question, go ahead and put it in the Q&A section, and we can address that. But we are very excited to have everyone here tonight. Those of you that don't know Terri, she is amazing. She, as it says here, she's the president of Apex, president and CEO of Terri Ross Consulting, founder and CEO of Apex Platform, and co-founder of the 4S Summit. Also, Terri is a world-renowned practice management consultant, international speaker in the aesthetic industry. She's helped hundreds of medical practices grow and be successful, and scale upwards of 2 million plus. And going back, she has so much history of being involved in the day-to-day operations of spas. She's sold lasers. She understands this industry perhaps better than anybody else from both sides of the table. And that's very, very unique in today's world. And a couple of things that I want to kind of set the table with Terri before we kind of get going today. First is we've kind of dedicated about an hour today. I think we're going to cover a lot of material in about 30 minutes or so. We'll open up some Q&A. And when you think about that, that's not a lot of time. We're going to kind of scratch the surface, but we're going to hit some key points, and you're going to have some very important takeaways tonight. And I hope that you'll think about that. For some of you, it might be repetitive, and that's okay too, because anytime you can hear something a second or third time, it starts to stick more. We're also recording this, and so you're going to all receive a copy of this presentation later, and hope that you'll use this resource for what it's intended. But a lot of what we're going to cover tonight is going to be covered over a 2.5-day seminar in Dallas, on September 28th through October 1st. And some of you are going to be there. And if you're not, we're certainly invite you to do that. So we've got some opportunities. In fact, for one lucky person, we do a drawing at the end. We'll actually do it tomorrow morning. But for anyone who stays to the end, we're going to do a drawing. And you will get, one person from tonight is actually going to get a free admission to the seminar valued at $1,800. So be aware of that. That's a really, really cool offering. We appreciate Apex for offering that. But super excited. Please pay attention. If you've got some questions throughout, put those in the Q&A. You can type them to me in the chat, raise your hand. We want to be a little interactive tonight and make this happen. So with that, Terri, let's go ahead and let's get us started on some of these things that we've been talking about, and how we help these practices be their best selves.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. Thank you for MyAdvice for hosting this. And more importantly, thank you everyone for showing up for me tonight. I know I can't see your faces, which always makes me sad. but I am grateful, humbled, and always appreciative for the support that you guys have always given me throughout the years. I'm sure many of you could be our current clients. And if you're not, I would love for you to be. But, Chad and I were talking, and he mentioned the 4S Summit. We'll dive a little bit more into that and why we decided to do that. But, to Chad's lovely introduction of me, I appreciate that so much. Many of you do know me. And if you don't, I think the story is relative simply because, one of the things Chad and I were talking about prior to this getting started was there's so much noise out there. There's so many conferences and they're amazing. And I speak at all of them. And I think Chad does too. And so does Dr. Schultz and Isaac, my co-CEO. And I think what's happening is that it's starting to get very diluted. And there's a lot of speakers. Sometimes they're very short. Sometimes the presentations are theoretical. And what was happening was, I was with Medicis, now Galderma. I launched Cool Sculpting. So I come from the Fortune 500 device side. I owned a medical spa in Beverly Hills, one of the most competitive markets in the country. It's sold to Skin Spirit. So I had the inner workings. I've worked with practices for 12 years, helping them grow, as Chad said, multi-millions of dollars. And then I've been consulting for over 15 years. And so I share that. There's no pat on my back. I genuinely do this because I do it for you. And it makes me saddened when I see people making bad decisions or wrong choices or thinking they can do it themselves, right? Versus really saying, I want to invest in my business, because at the end of the day, you all are entrepreneurs as well. So Chad, would you agree?
Absolutely. And that's exactly why I do it. I love it. I love helping people. And so 100%.
So we wanted to come here today. Again, Chad kind of mentioned there's a lot we're going to talk about at the 2-day summit in Dallas. But as we go into Q4, like, where did the year go already? It's crazy.
Gosh.
There's probably not a day that goes by that I don't get hit up by a private equity person asking me, how do I help these clients grow? What do we look at? What do we do? And then on our client side, we have about 450, 500 Apex clients. And then previous to that, Terri Ross Consulting. And I know you guys want the highest multiples. If you do, I always like interaction. Give me a hell yeah in the chat. Of course you do. But to get the multiples, we have to be smart about our business, and we have to start investigating what happens. And so this presentation over the next 30 minutes is really how much money are we leaving on the table? I just shared with you a little bit about my background. So again, thank you guys so much. What we're going to cover are, what are the common roadblocks in aesthetic medicine today? What are the 8 core business fundamentals that you guys must master? This is really not optional. And again, it's okay if you don't know how to do it. We always say often, providers, doctors don't go to business school. The training in the industry is lacking. And so that's what we're here for. And we're so humbled to be able to do that, both with what Chad does and what we do, and we complement each other. I want to talk a little bit about buyer personas, because marketing is a beast, right? It is a beast. And it's one of the areas on the profit and loss statement that gets overinflated because people don't know where to put the money, or they don't know what to spend it on. And they just spend, and they're thinking that there's this huge sea of whales that are going to come in, and we really need to get to the minnows, right? So it's important about who is our avatar, who is our persona, what kind of clients are we talking to? Because having a conversation with a 30-year-old versus a 55-year-old are 2 very different things, okay? And there's a lot that can be said in terms of getting these new people in the door. And then how do we convert them based on response time, based on training, based on converting them? Because I promise you guys, 1, call tracking is so critical, but many people don't listen to the calls. And then if they do, they're not sure how to coach, or they're not holding anyone accountable. So, what Chad kind of said earlier, repetition is key. It's just key. We learn and we learn and we learn, but it's what we do when we get back to the practice. It's what you guys are going to do tonight when you're drinking a glass of wine. I hope that you are, and you're taking notes, and you're like, shit, I suffer here, or I'm not great at that, or we're really good at that, but I need to go back and do this. And I want you to just to sit with yourself for a minute, because it's always about, why did you show up tonight? Like, there's a million things you could do. Be with your family, your friends, you can go to dinner, you
Right.
can not give a shit, right? But you're here. And if you are truly, truly, I'm humbled and thank you so much because it shows you're invested in your business. But it's saying, I'm willing to go back and make some hard choices. I'm willing to go back and really look at my staff or look at my team or invest, because while your team can be your greatest, right, asset, it's your biggest expense. You will yield a return on an investment, but you won't if you're just throwing money out the window. And then I'm going to literally give you, which I don't give this away, like the top 11 questions that you should ask in a consultation. And they're a little bit of mixed in a consultation and in phone skills too. So, again, chime in if you agree, but in over our 20 plus years, and then working with people like Chad and others in the industry that really complement an aesthetic practice, there are the same fundamental problems that everyone faces. Even if you are in that top, 1 to 5% of businesses, 90% of aesthetic practices don't measure the data. They just don't, because they don't know what to measure. There's over 60 practice management softwares. It's probably a question I get almost every day, or our team. What do I buy? What's the best software? There is no best software, you guys. But it is how you use it, right? A lot of them have great reporting, great inventory, great assets to follow. But if you don't know what to do with the information, that becomes a problem, or the data isn't standardized. So when we look at the problem in the market, there's really no training. I wrote, my God, I think most of you know, and if you're my APAC, this is like one of the courses that we wrote. This is like school. But I wrote it when I had the med spa because there really is no training for anyone to go to. I don't mean a course, but I mean real, like, how do I do my job? Again, the data isn't standardized, lack of business expertise, and that's okay. Again, we only know what we know. We do our best. We know we want patients to come in the door. We know we want happy patients. We know we want good outcomes. We know the services we might want to offer. But the things we don't know is, again, how are our conversions being measured, right? Are they yielding the return that I want based on the money that I'm putting out? Am I buying the right equipment that's going to yield me the highest profit? And these are some of the little tiny things when we're talking about leaving money on the table. Missed conversion opportunities. And it's simply because, again, you're spending X amount of money. Chad, I'd love to kick it back to you for a second. When your clients might ask you, what do I spend in PPC, or what do I spend to get new people in the door? We want to look at those marketing qualified leads, but there's a return we're looking for. And we want people in the door, but not if we're not going to convert them. Yeah.
100%. We try to really stress this. It's when you think about your P&L and your expenses, it's we hear all the time, well, it costs this much, it costs that much. And it's like, you need to stop thinking about it from a cost perspective and think about it from an ROI perspective. Because it's moving a lever, right? If I spend this much and my return is this, then it's totally worth it. I'll give you an example. I have one of our clients who spends about $40,000 a month in PPC in New York City for one procedure, laser hair removal. That might sound insane to anybody that's listening tonight, right? He didn't get there overnight with the practice. This is a huge practice, by the way. That 40,000 generates over $500,000 in revenue every single month. Now, I live in Park City, Utah, so just outside of Salt Lake. I could spend $40,000 a month for laser hair removal in this city if I wanted to. I just don't have enough eyeballs, right? But what matters is the ROI. He spends $40,000 and he's making $500,000. So it's about putting quarters in the machine, and it's been tested now to understand if he spends more than that, it doesn't really net much more of a return. In fact, it's kind of diminishes. If he drops down to about 30, 35, it starts to see it really fall off. So again, measurements and looking at the data is absolutely critical for that success. And so we try to really teach it's about the ROI. If you spend this much, you're going to need a 3-to-1 ROI is a break even on PPC. That's just break even. But if you can get to 4-to-1, 5-to-1, so you spend $1 and it's worth $5, that's really, really good. So again, it's not about what you spent, it's about what it makes you. So again, understanding the data, understanding the metrics is a huge part of that, Terri. So I'm You're preaching to the choir with me, but thank you.
I love it. Well, and I think as we continue, the reason I wanted to preface that is because, look, again, back to the training. If we're spending X amount of money to get people in the door, one, are we measuring how many calls, how many web leads? What's the timeliness of the response, which we're going to get into? What's the quality of those leads? Who are they? When did they come in? What vertical did they come in? How many, and what is the conversion ratio? I just rattled off 9 things that I promise you, and I hope to God you measure half of these things, but most people don't. And then they wonder why, or they get certainly a bunch of people calling. What we said, this big sea of people, but is it the right people? Did my front desk say, or my concierge, whatever, I don't like to, whatever, they're such an important role. What are they saying on the phone? Why didn't the person come in? So when we think about conversions, we have to look at inquiry to consult, consult to close. And I know we wanted to talk about some metrics, but that should be 70%. So I invite you,
yes,
you're on this call, to go back. If you don't know how to track it, please reach out to myself or Chad. We'll help you. Because if you're below that, that's okay. Something's wrong. But you can improve it, and we can improve it from training, from making sure that you hold your team accountable, because they should be accountable, right? They're accountable for people coming in, for people converting, for people being retained, for people being sold. I hate the word upsell. I don't like that at all. We're not upselling anything. We're educating clients to get a treatment plan, right? To be exposed to other things, but they're held to very specific KPIs, and they should be, right? And if they're not, so that's one of the biggest areas where people are being, right, money's left on the table. So let's talk about these 8 core business fundamentals to master. When we incubated Apex from Terri Ross Consulting, we said, okay, what are we trying to do? We want practices to be decisive. And what are we trying to solve? We had to narrow it down. We are trying to solve, number one, right, to drive revenue growth. What drives revenue growth? A lot of times if I look at a P&L, so I'm going to ask you, where does your revenue come from? Whatever you might say, surgery, this procedure, this laser, this injectable, whatever it is. Is it your highest gross profitable procedure? And a lot of times it's not. Because when you look at revenue per hour, and we'll talk a bit about it, and we dive deep into this, you guys, I'll talk a little bit about the 4S Summit and what it is and why it's different, but I'm going to take a minute, Chad, if you don't mind, and talk about it now, so it sets the stage.
Please.
There are 22 conferences I speak at. And again, they're amazing, but they're busy, they're long. There's not a lot of people on stage for 15, 20 minutes. And Dr. Renato Saltz is a key opinion leader. He's a world-renowned plastic surgeon where Chad is, in Park City and in Utah. He's been the past president of many societies. Isaac Muesli, my co-CEO, he had the first data analytics company in aesthetics, and myself. We decided, because we were getting asked daily, even with Apex, Terri, can you come to my practice? Can you train my team? I still don't know what to do. I went to the conference. I'm stuck. I don't know where to start. And we said, you know what? Like, how can we give back? And so the 4S Summit is really about systems, structure, strategy, skills, sales. It is down and dirty, no bullshit. It is a 2-day, it's not a conference. It is a 2-day intensive workshop. This is our 3rd one. We ran it just with owners and managers in the beginning. Now we opened a 2nd track to bring staff, because everybody said, oh my God, I really want my staff to be here.
Yeah.
And it is where we have vetted industry partners, Chad being one of them. We have M&A panels. We're going to have a digital marketing panel. We have certain speakers, but this is like, again, bring your P&L, bring your balance sheet, bring your credentialing statement, bring your SWOT, like you're going to come and get the blueprint, literally, and how to go back and run a successful, sustainable, profitable practice. Because private equity, if you own a practice at some point, you want to exit. Maybe it's now. I encourage you to have conversations, but what they want is efficiency. They want high profit. They want diversification of services. They want multiple providers yielding, right, some of that revenue. It can't be solo one person. right? And they want to know that you have a good business, right? That they want to buy, which is going to get you the highest multiples. That's what you want. And so in order to do that, that's what we have to do. Understand our revenue drivers. Make sure your finances are accurate. You guys, I promise you, and I'm going to show you some case studies in a second. There are people that have been in business, and maybe you're on this call 20, 30 years. I always applaud everybody. There's no glass ceiling of education. Even if you are a KOL, I've sat at practices for hours, right? For days looking at books. And a lot of the times they're just a hot mess. And that's okay. That's okay. But we want to make sure your financials are structured accurately, that are aligned with your QuickBooks, your practice management software. So it's clean data for you. In 30 minutes, you know what's working, what's not. We want to drive more patients in the door. More importantly, we want to nurture the ones we have. We want to maximize the output and the revenue that they get so they have better outcomes. You make more money. We want to increase the revenue per hour for your providers. Again, that's going to go right along with increasing your overall profitability. How do we support and track your goals? One, I ask people, do you have goals? They may say yes. How did you come up with them? Oh, well, it's 20% over last year or whatever it is, but there's no real rhyme or reason.
Right.
So, right. So do we have a real forecast? Do we understand our square footage? Do we understand the revenue per hour, per room, per provider, per service category? You guys, we have to look at all three of those things, okay? Roll them up into the revenue per hour for your business. This is where you're either going to fall short or be above. And this is one of the things we teach. You know, a med spa room, 600 to $1,000 an hour. Surgeons over 3,000. I invite you right now, take a look at the revenue divided by the hours worked. That's your baseline revenue per hour. Come back and tell me what it is. If you're below what I said, it's okay. But we have to start digging deep and say, well, shit, why am I below? Why is Susie not where she needs to be? You want your people to, right, make more money, and we want you to make more money. And then what's my capacity? Like, how busy are you? How busy are your rooms? And again, if not, these are things we can fix. Again, we want to improve the skill levels. That's what we're kind of talking about here today. That's what the 4S is all about. I want you guys to understand all of the KPIs and the benchmarks, because I promise you, when you do, it is powerful. I mean, it's just, right. It's like your Bible. And then compensation, it's always been a hot topic. People say, Terri, how do I pay? My question back is, what can you afford to pay? Number one, but we want to have compensation aligned with what is being generated. A few case studies: Paco Canales and Heather Furness, key opinion leaders in Santa Rosa, husband and wife plastic surgeon, 3 locations. They grew $2.5 million. They've been in business, again, you guys, 30 years, 30 years, and just sold to private equity. So this just goes to show that we're all in a place to say, raise my hand, I need help, I want help. Because when you do that, again, you're opening up, you know, opportunities for your business and your team to be the best they can be. Amanda Satterwhite was an ER doctor in Oklahoma, not being able to quit her job. She was working in the, you know, all night shifts, $3.5 million in 18 months. And we helped her start her business. So she was really set off straight from the ground up. You know, here's this practice growth formula that I thought was important. When we think about our business, again, a lot of times it's, who do I hire? What do I buy? Not really recognizing, can I afford it? Do I lease it? I know the reps come in, and I can talk about it because I was one of those people that worked for the company. They can show you those pretty sheets that you're going to pay it off, you know, in 30 days or whatever that is. But the practice growth formula is really looking about, again, your overall business. What is your niche? There's riches in the niches. You don't need to be everything to everybody. You know, what are your KPIs? What are you spending in marketing to get these new conversions? So we're looking at conversions, which is gaining clients through differentiating factors in different verticals. Looking at your visitor source, where are they coming from? Looking at your social media presence. We want your value proposition, right, to all be consistent and to be the same. And at the end of the day, that equals your practice growth, but being able to maximize and optimize all of these areas. You know, how do we—
Terri, let me ask you a question that kind of relates to that a little bit. We've got a question from Stacy here tonight. She said, what is your thought on cross and upselling your existing patient base if it's robust, as opposed to bringing in new patients? How should you allocate resources for each segment? Our practice is frequently too busy to accept new patients.
Stacey, I love you to pieces. I love you to pieces. If you can, and you're singing from my sheet of music. In our training, okay, I am all about, I am all about nurturing the patients that you have. But what this comes down to is your ability, anyone's ability in the consultation room. I don't have the sheet here. So I hate the word upsell and cross-sell, that even though that's what we're doing. But I think that when we talk about sales training, people get it twisted. They're like, Terri, I'm not a salesperson. That's not what I do. I'm a provider. If you're a provider on this call, your obligation, you're educating, right? If I had any other medical problem, and I say this often, cancer, I needed heart surgery, I broke my leg, you're going to do an H&P, a diagnostic. I'm going to get the whole treatment plan to be better. In aesthetics, for some reason, we don't do that. We take a symptomatic approach, and I only talk to the patient about the one thing that they came in for, wrinkles and fine lines. So Stacey, yes, I want you to nurture the ones that you have, but I don't know your consultation process. I don't know if you charge. I don't know how long you take. But one of the things that I'm very passionate about, and I don't deviate from what I believe because I've done it, I've seen it, I've helped enough practices. It's making sure, and it's over here on my floor somewhere. I'm going to grab it for 1 second because I want to show you guys. Well, never mind. I'll skip it. It's a treatment plan. Okay?
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead and grab it. Go ahead and grab it.
Go and grab it.
Because this is a great thing. We think about these things in our own business, right? But Terri, to your point, and I tell this to our sales team all the time, it's not about this idea of upselling, cross-selling, certain what we're doing. But I look at my customer success team, and they're like, "We're not salespeople." I'm like, "Let me help you understand what selling is. Helping is selling. If you are helping somebody, they have a challenge. You need to present them with solutions. And if you help them, they want what you have to offer. It doesn't have to always feel like this hard sell and I've got to close something right now. Help them and just be genuine, and you'll find that it opens up so many opportunities." So it's a mindset shift a little bit.
No, and you're right. But Stacey, I'm going to give you guys the 11 questions you're going to ask, because let me say one thing. Patients, clients, they buy for an emotional reason. So our ability to ask me, your client in the consult room, a series of questions, you know the answer. But when I talked about the personas, which we're going to get into next, most people don't know enough about me. Where do I live? Again, what's my age? Why am I doing it? People buy for fear and desire, wants, needs, right? Did I get a divorce? Do I look heavy? Or am I 30 and I want to date and I'm on Bumble? Whatever it is, the story's different, the persona is different, but you have to really get down to, what am I willing to do? How much does it bother me? So I know I'm digressing and I want to save the 11 questions, but this is a treatment plan, okay? This is a client. She's in Nigeria. She's been my client for 5 years. And if you open up the treatment plan, it basically, how it's dissected is it lists your services. It lists the problem it solves, sort of the information that you need. And so Stacey, for you and anybody listening, the whole idea is that when you start to credential the practice on the phone, you're saying, welcome to ABC Aesthetics. This is Terri. How can I help you? When you start to say, Chad, when you come into ABC Aesthetics, what you can expect is you're going to be meeting with our provider for 30 to 45 minutes. We take a comprehensive approach. I know today you called about your, fine lines and wrinkles, but, we're going to have you fill out this cosmetic interest questionnaire so that we can learn enough about you, so that we can build a customized treatment plan to get you the best outcome. Now, did that sound salesy to you?
You did. It was really interesting. And I don't know if anybody else caught this. You never use the word I or we. You use the word you 4 times. 4 times in that conversation, Terri. You made it about them in that little script. And I hope everybody kind of caught that. It was very subtle, but it was very genuine, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes. It sounds silly, but I have sold, I went to medical school. I worked for J&J right out of college. I've been selling for 30 plus years. And when I got into the med spa, I saw that no one asked good questions. They didn't know what to ask. We just said, here's your problem: wrinkles, fine lines, texture, tone, surgery, whatever the hell is wrong. And here's what you can do. And then they started to give multiple options. You could do this, and then maybe that. A confused mind won't buy. So if we're saying, how do we not leave money on the table? As providers, you have the answer, but you have to, one, say, this is the protocol in my practice that I believe. I believe that if Terri comes in for fine lines, wrinkles, and she fills out the cosmetic interest questionnaire and she has texture, tone, laxity, whatever the hell's wrong with the client, right? Fat reduction, it could be around surgery. It was already told to me by your front desk. Your practice takes a comprehensive approach. We build a custom treatment plan. The patient will never feel sold to because you let me know what my expectations were when I come in. That already in of itself, I promise you, call around, call your competitors. Your team on the front who's answering the phone is already going to establish and credential the practice in you in such a different way that I'm like, holy shit, I certainly want to go there. And then when I come in and I see you, Stacy, and you're like, okay, right. Thank you so much for coming in. I see you're here today to talk about ABC, XYZ. What do you want to focus on? Maybe you ask me that because maybe I checked off several things. And then you're also going to let me know, I really want to take this time to get to know you so that I can understand your needs, right? And how we together can build this treatment plan that's going to get you the best outcome. Now, if you say that to me, I'm already bought, like, I want you to give me that. So that becomes where maybe it was fine lines and wrinkles, and it could have been a couple $100, maybe $1,000, maybe it turns into $5,000. But because we have a treatment plan, because it was told to me that that's the way you run your business, I'm going to get a treatment plan. You're going to ask me these 11 questions. I'm literally giving you the gold. I never give this away because I never give these questions away. And if you can just do nothing else other than walk away from this presentation and literally go back, I want you to come to the 4S Summit because we're going to get down and dirty and role play. Okay. But if you focus on that, so I know this was a long-winded answer, but Stacy, 100%, and anybody else listening, I would prefer, candidly, all of you guys, the average spend in a med spa is $550. That's based on statistics from AmSpa's data last year. That's shitty. That's very, very, very low. If I just said 600 to $1,000 is the KPI. Now, many of you could be like, oh, I'm 8, I'm 9, I'm 10. Well, that right, 8, 900, 1,000. What I want you to do though, is I want you to literally go back and say, okay, how often do your patients return? Do I return for the same thing? Am I returning for new procedures? Right? What is my maximum spend? Because this is when you start to peel away the onion and pick apart the data, you're like, oh my God, here's all this opportunity that I just didn't know. And we're not marketing the right thing. So of course, I'd rather you allocate your money to your patients. Thank you for the question. Again, we talked a little bit about this a lot. How do we improve the inquiry to consult? We have to understand our buyer, back to those personas. I'm spending money, whether you're spending money or not. Right? And you have the patients today. Who is your buyer? Where do they live? How old are they? How much do they make? What's the demographic? What's the sociographic? What's my reason? Because this leads to retention. Am I a shopper and I came into your practice for one thing and I don't come back because we didn't perfect the consultation process, or I wasn't told these expectations and why you're different? Because do you want a patient once or do you want a patient for a lifetime? And I think that's where we have to shift this mentality and say, I could improve my processes to gain a patient, right? And get more out of them. And again, why am I buying it? Again, did I get a divorce? Did I try other procedures? Maybe they didn't work. Maybe I wasn't compliant. Maybe it was the wrong thing. Maybe I didn't spend enough money. But if you don't ask me, you don't know. So we have to be okay with like getting out of your comfort zone a little bit to say, I have got to dig deep. I tell my sales team, I tell them to be quiet. I'm like, shut your mouth. Just ask questions. Because your ability, when I go through these 11 questions with you, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't think about it like that. And maybe you do ask some of them, but I promise you, when you get here and I start to be vulnerable with you, it changes the game. I trust you. I want to do what you tell me to do because I believe that if I want this certain outcome, if I want to look 30, I might need to do multiple things, but in order to get there, right, it's a treatment plan. It's a process. And the whole, I can't afford it, price objections, that's bullshit. I really think it is. Now, listen, somebody can't, the whole buy now, pay later, there's memberships, everybody has loyalty, everybody has payment plans. We have to make sure that we are talking about that, you guys too, in the consultation, not waiting for them to walk out the door. Because if they want to get the procedures, they'll get it done. Again, when we think about the persona of your cosmetic buyer, how do they think? How do they feel? What do they want? What do they hope for? What do they expect? What do they believe they're going to get? And I know this is a lot to swallow, but we really have to start digging down to say, like, again, who do we have coming in the door? Take a look at your website. This is Chad's wheelhouse. What does it convey?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Terri, I had a doctor that came up to, I met him at one of the conferences and we got talking and he was bragging to me. He said, I am the best Botox guy in town. I redo a lot of people's work. I'm this, I'm that. And he was really, fluffing his feathers, right? Which is fine. It didn't bother me. And I said, so what are your challenges? Let's talk a bit more. What are you looking to do? He said, I just have a lot of openings on my schedule still. And I'd like to really fill those in. I said, well, let's take a look. Let's take a look at your website. We pulled up his website and I looked at him, I said, you know what your problem is? He's like, what? I'm like, you just got done telling me you're the best. You get the best results. You're better than anybody in town. I said, I've been on your website for 30 seconds and it just told me you're mediocre. I said, your website's so old. I'm like, and he was kind of shocked, right? And I said, do you use rusty needles? And I kind of break the tension a little bit. Yeah. I said, Doc, let's look at some of your competition in town. And we pulled up 3 other websites of his competition. I said, they look state of the art. They look like they can meet my needs. And so if someone word of mouth or whatever heard about you and I went to your website, I now have doubts. Yeah. I don't have confidence that you can help me with my desires. You actually just kind of, added to my fear.
Yeah.
I said, and it's a persona. You got to remember, this is emotion. People buy on emotion. He was like, oh my gosh, I never really thought about this. I just was relying on my credentials. And yeah. I'm like, right. I mean, word of world, people will judge based on what they see and what they feel and how you make them feel. And your website doesn't make anybody feel great right now. And again, it was eye-opening for him. But again, he just wasn't thinking about that in his business. He was just kind of cruising along. And anyway, it happens. So again, I love that you've got that question. Go to your homepage. What does it say about you right now? If you were outside looking, would you go visit you? Would you want to come to your practice?
Well, and it's interesting, and then I'll move on. I'll use Beverly Hills, but wherever you guys live, do a competitive analysis. And what I mean by that is, let's say in where Lasky was, in a 3-mile radius, there were 400 people between plastics, derms, med spas, all doing the same thing. Like you guys have Rodeo Drive, right? Bedford, Cannon. Right. We could just walk. So the reason I say this example is that it's one thing to say I'm board certified. Hopefully you are, and you should be. It's another to say, well, if everybody in a 10-mile radius, right, is board certified, and then your website looks beautiful, and then it becomes, what kind of before and afters do I have? How many videos do I have? How much new content? I just want you to be thinking about, if we all do very similar things, you may do it better, but that has got to be conveyed. Maybe you have a better technique. Maybe your surgery process or your scar, whatever those things are, that has to be conveyed, and it has to be told to patients on the phone by your front. Otherwise, everybody starts to look the same. And then again, we're trying to fight for people, but we don't differentiate ourselves enough. So,
right.
When we think about these personas, we know who we are. This is looking at it a little bit different way. I'm a driver. I make decisions very quick, but I want certain things, right? And I think we have to look at other people, again, the people coming in, are they methodical? That's an analytical approach. Are they humanistic, right? They're amiable people. Are they spontaneous, which means they may not be coming back? But I do want you guys to take a minute. If you're working with Chad or whatever digital marketing company you're working with, you should be able to look at your reports and identify the callers coming in or the web leads coming in. And hopefully that's being put into your software so that you can run a report of the new people in any given time to say, I'm getting the right people, or perhaps I'm not. I want you to, again, listen to the market when we're looking at website. This is more along Chad's wheelhouse, but, do we have enough phone numbers to differentiate our marketing channels? What I mean is, can you decide where the business is coming from? Okay. And if you can't, right, how do you know your web pages are converting? You have to know how your site's performing. And this is, you guys, we're touching on one important aspect, because people will say, Terri, where do I put my marketing dollars? The first thing I say is your greatest investment is your website. It's your brand, right? It's your outside business card. It's what people see. The second thing they see is they're going to call the practice. Okay. If those two things in of itself are broken, we've already missed the boat. So how do we make sure those two things are working efficiently, maximizing and getting the best patients in the door that we can, and which right directly leads to your team training? And again, our PPCs, are you listening to phone calls? There are a lot of people, that I'm going to suggest, you guys, if you don't have call tracking, it is a must. Okay. It's really not optional. I have a client in New Jersey, a big KOL surgeon with a med spa, and almost 50% of the calls were going into a voicemail, not being returned for 2 days.
Wow.
And then when he started to listen, what was being said on the phone, I could have thrown up. I mean, it was appalling. And it's so sad, but I promise you that, like I said earlier, it's one thing to just say, oh my God, Terri suggested I get this. It's another thing to say, what do I do with this information? Am I going to listen to these calls with my team? And as a manager, you should. And then how do I coach them? And I will help you, right? That's again what we're going to learn in 4S. How do we do it? I hate scripting because it really needs to come from an innate ability of your personality. But there is a method to the madness, you guys, on here. And if, again, you're spending money, and I know all of you are, we cannot afford the training for your team, even as owners on the financial side, and we get down and dirty, is the greatest thing that you can do for your business. Response time matters. You guys, 7 times more likely to convert if contacted within an hour. 50% of people are never followed up with at all. That is a lot.
Crazy. Blows my mind.
Every 10 minutes that go by, they're calling someplace else. So whether they're coming in on social media, they're coming in on your website, they're coming in on the phone, there is, and we get into it for us. There is a method to doing this. There's a method to the way you communicate what needs to be said, so that we can make sure, one, again, we're getting the right people to book the appointment, not wasting time. Okay. We don't want looky-loos coming in, wasting your time. We want qualified people coming in that are going to convert into a treatment. So simple things from a protocol perspective that you want to gather information. A lot of times I'll say, hey, on the phone, did you put them in the software? Well, no, they didn't want to book. Well, are you asking for questions in the beginning so you can get the information to put them in? Because you have to realize, if you're spending money, you want to have these people in your database. So have them sign up for a newsletter. Again, Chad can probably tell you more of this too. There's got to be a call to action. What are you asking me to do? Call you, read something, do something, make it simple for me. Make sure there's information about the practice, the consultation process, kind of what I said. What you can expect that is a phrase I use. Help me understand what you can expect when you come here. Why we're different is you're going to get ABC, XYZ because of this. We think about features and benefits. We never finish the sentence. What am I going to get, and what is it going to do for me? You got to tell me that. When we talk about the price objection, everybody's hemming and hawing about price. I'm not even going to tell you the answer, because I want you to come to 4Ask, because I give a phrase. I give a phrase that you need to ask. And when you ask it, you will basically make somebody feel stupid, but it will diminish that price objection, because you're asking me what's important to me. I'm just going to give it away to you. Okay. When you talk about the price thing, you're going to say, Chad, thank you. That's such a great question. I understand it's an investment. I didn't even acknowledge they asked about price. It's an investment, not a cost, not a fee, not an expense. But what are you looking for when you choose an aesthetic practice? Quiet. What am I looking for? You're asking me. I'm saying, what does it cost, Chad? What does this breast augmentation cost? What does that laser cost? Right? What are you looking for when you choose an aesthetic practice?
Right.
And then you can either wait and let them answer, Or you can say, is it price? And if you're my client, you know exactly what I teach. Is it price? Is it safety? And is it results? You're putting that back on me. I'm going to look like an asshole if I say price. But if I do,
Right.
Listen, I need you guys to listen intently. If I tell you price, I'm telling you right now that I'm a price shopper. You either want me or you don't. Now, or I'm going to feel stupid and be, well, no. Of course I want safety and results. Fantastic. If you want safety and results, you've come to the right place, and then you continue with the conversation. And let me share with you why. Let me share with you again what you can expect when you come here. If I'm still pushing on the price, I understand, Chad, what if price is most important for you, there are other practices that are probably better suited for you, because what you can expect when you come here is, and then the credentialing happens. You guys, this is powerful shit. It might sound stupid, but it's not, because it's not when we're thinking about how much money is lost on the table. So I just gave you a couple little nuggets right there that I hope you wrote down. And again, you can see these other things about what you can do on your website to ensure you're making it simple. Anything else to add, Chad? This is your wheelhouse.
Well, I think you nailed it. And that FOMO is difficult, right? You're like, I got somebody, they're asking me questions. But by you asking them questions and then listening, you're going to understand, is this the right person, the right fit for us or not? And you kind of weed them out, because there's going to be more. But that potential person coming in, if they come into your practice, and whether you charge a fee for consult or not, right? But they take up a room for a half hour or an hour, and then they don't do anything because you didn't, weed them out at the beginning. They just took money out of your pocket.
Yep.
And that could have been somebody else that was in there. And so again, it's difficult because we're like, oh, I got somebody. Yeah, but not everybody. You don't need everybody. You need the right people. It's got to be the right fit.
And I love that you just said that, because sometimes the mentality is, I just want to get them in. And that is a mistake. That's a mistake, you guys. It's not just to get me in, especially if you don't charge. When we think about, again, that revenue per hour, taking up time in a room, your time's valuable. Your school, your credentials, your education, your overhead, what you pay, you are worth it. And perception's reality. Nobody wants anything for free. They don't. I don't care if you have the highest conversion rates. I'm still taking up time. And if I don't come in, you can't get the time back. I ask people often, what do you think we sell? And everybody will say, right? Treatments and experience. We sell time. Right, I'm going to move on because I know that we are able to be respectful.
Yeah, and there's a question on this one right here. Let me ask you this question that's related to this. So, who do you task with prompt after-hour responses to advice, media, social media inquiries and comments? And this is maybe for me as the owner. I'm doing most of the social media on weekends and have no work-life balance. Do you want to take this? You want me to try? This is tough.
We both can try. Why don't you answer it, and then I certainly can, chime in.
Yeah, I mean, gosh. So if you are just getting started, you have nobody else that can help you in your practice, you're in a tough spot. And it feels like you just don't have enough hours in the day to get to everything. Boy, the after hours stuff, it's tough, right? When do you shut off the business? When don't you? It feels like in today's world, you could almost like never shut it off. And so maybe you need to have some boundaries. Maybe you don't get to that first hour, but maybe what you do is you look at it and say, okay, before, I get home, I do meals, I do, family time, I do personal time, whatever it is. And then I get 30 minutes now before I go to bed. If there's anything there, I respond to it. If not, maybe it just has to get shut off. You need some boundaries in your life, but also it's good to be responsive. Terri, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say that, look, I feel that anybody that chooses to work in aesthetics, this is not a 9-to-5 job. It's not to me. And what I mean by that is I'm not suggesting, look, I'm a single mom. I'm not suggesting work 24 hours because people have asked me. What I mean by that is, if we're trying to increase revenue and there's only 8 hours in a day, the only way to make more money is increase your hours, right? So I'm either going to start at 7, I might stay late till 7, 1 or 2 days. I might open up on the weekends. But related to your question, I think this is where we have an opportunity. I don't know what your staffing looks like, but if there's your concierge, your front desk, guest relations, whatever you call them, maybe they're answering till 8 o'clock or whatever that might be. But whatever autoresponder, you have to make sure on your Facebooks, your social medias, that you have a beautiful autoresponder that's going to kick back and let me know whatever that is, or somebody will get back to you within 24 hours, something like that. So they're being acknowledged. That's number one. If it's again, a web lead or something where something has to be responded to, that should happen first thing in the morning. And then you reward your team. So if you want them, I know people that worked for me. Hell, I did it for a long time. I mean, if that stuff came in and I got it on my cell phone, I answered, but I wanted, you know what I mean? I chose to answer and I got rewarded. So sometimes you can pay your people a flat fee, $5 for every patient that's converted. Listen, that's a lot of extra money for them. And then they're eager to do it. So that's my 2 cents there.
Yeah. So that's kind of a follow-up to the other question that Susan, you asked, is do you pay them overtime? You could set up absolutely some overtime. You could pay them on a bonus system, for anybody that schedules, anybody that comes in, if they book, so there's a lot of different ways you can set that up and really incentivize it. It's almost what we'd call gamification, but I think Terri also nailed it too, is you can use AI, use some of the automation to really help you. Auto responses, and I know you're a client, so we can absolutely talk about some of those tomorrow. I'm happy to make sure our team is working with you if that's not set up already. Let's set up some of those automations to make your life easier.
I love it. I love it. I put this $32,000 phone call because that's the power of training. This is again a facial plastic in Park City as well, Chad. Dan Ward, I went to train his team, but you can take a look at these. I don't need to go through every one, but these are the important aspects when you're thinking about who's answering your phone. How well can you talk about your unique value proposition? How well can they credential yourself as a provider, what your practice is? How well do they know your treatments and services over something else? I can guarantee when people call the practice and they're like, hey, do you offer Ulthera? I'm making it up right now. And you don't have Ulthera, but it's skin tightening, but you have 3 other things. And they're like, no, we don't. Click buy. That's another way you're leaving money on the table. Your team has to understand the treatments and services you offer, what category they fall into. Again, are we able to listen? Are we able to qualify? Are we able to do what I just said? Handle price objections, set the expectations of what they're going to get so that I know why you're different than somebody else. And the goal is to convert. And I've done this for so long, but this is the method. Like this is what is going to make or break a practice in terms of growth for you guys. 2 to 3 ring rule, shocking statistics, 25% of people, that's very low, are scheduled. And this is across the board in terms of, and so this is telephone best practices that's in the manual that you get at 4S. We think about the communication goals during the consultation. We know clients have an interest. You have to figure out how dissatisfied they are. They want to spend money. You don't know how much. We have to find out. Budget and price are 2 different things. They want a good result, but what are their expectations? They value the services, but what's their perception of the value? And then the concerns. And I think this comes down to the treatment plan and you guys being able to ask these 11 questions that we're going to get to. And here they are. This is, swear to God, you guys, this is the gold right here. Now this, if you've never seen it before in my trainings, if you're not my client, this might just be foreign to you, but I'm going to read them out loud. I want you to sit with yourself for a second, shut your eyes too. When you're walking into the consultation, right? Hi, I'm Terri. I'm Dr. Terri. I'm nurse practitioner, PA, whatever you are, right? I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. Tell me about yourself and your lifestyle. Terri, how long has this been bothering you? How has this made you feel? When I ask people, do you ask these questions? Majority of the time I ask some of them, not all of them, or I didn't even know what to ask. But how has this made you feel? So you just asked me, how has it been bothering me? I feel like shit, Chad. I feel old. I feel ugly. I feel fat, whatever it is. And how's this affected your life? Yeah, I'm dating. I kind of make a joke out of this because I just was in Idaho training a very high profile nurse practitioner, 3 practices, multi millions of dollars. 3 practices all came together because she's like, we still have to grow. You know, what treatments have you had in the past? Were you happy with them? Why or why not? How committed are you? You guys, this is critical. How committed are you to improving the way that you feel? I'm so committed, Chad. You know, if you don't ask me, number 3, how has this made me feel? How has it affected me? And how committed am I? You don't know. Otherwise, you don't know. And you're just going to offer me some things to do, but you don't know how I feel about it. You don't know how bad it's bothering me. You know, did you have a budget in mind? You know, what are your concerns about price? If you could pay X amount to get to the outcome we just talked about, because you said, Terri, that you feel shitty and bad and this and that. You guys are ultimately using my own answers against me. But I'm so vulnerable, right? That you're twisting it around. Really, this is like a little bit of a manipulation, but in the best form of it, because you're genuinely caring. So that I said, so when I start to say, oh God, Susie, I don't know if I can afford that, well, help me understand. Because what I heard you saying, I just gave you 2 phrases, is that you said you've been feeling bad for about a year. You've done these treatments. They didn't work. You went over here. It didn't work. Whatever, you're going to write it down. Like again, when somebody takes your order at the restaurant, you're going to write my answers down. You guys, this, I swear, if you listen, you walk away with nothing. Take a picture of this thing. You're going to go back, come to 4S. I'm going to get down and dirty with you. This is what makes or break a business. This is what gets patients, right, to trust you. And you're like, oh my God, this person was only spending this much money. Now they're spending X, but it changes the whole dynamics of the relationship you build. We're going to get into 2 KPIs. I'm going to speed this up. I know we've been on this call for a little while. Revenue per hour. We talked. Oh yeah, Chad. Yep.
So quick question related to that is, do you incorporate some of these questions in a written questionnaire the patient can answer when they check in for an appointment, or are these all verbal in the room?
They're verbal. This is not written. You have to bond with me on a conversation level. And it sounds like a lot, but when you perfect this, go stand in the mirror. I mean, when we role play, and I make people get out of your comfort zone because it's not something that you guys do, but I want you to pretend you're talking to your friend, you know, your sister, your family member, and it's just a conversation. So these go pretty quickly. I've tested consults, depending on if you're a surgeon, it's a little bit different, but I've tested consults at 30 minutes, at 45, and an hour. I think an hour is a long time. 30 minutes and you charge a fee, you can get a lot of this done and get a written treatment plan done.
Perfect.
Again, profit per procedure. This is very critical. Gross profit needs to be over 60%. Gross profit. That means there's no labor included in that. If it's under that, this is a little bit of a picture of our snapshot. If you're not our client in Apex, this is what you're going to get. Beautiful dashboards that spit out these things. Profit per procedure and revenue per hour are 2 of the biggest KPIs. So those case studies I showed you where people were growing multi-millions of dollars, this is how, because you can see what's working, what's not, and make the appropriate change quickly. A lot of times it comes into play. Price is too low. You're inefficient with your time, not, taking too long in the room. Cost of goods are too high. You're compensating too much. I can change those things for you based on what we spit out, based on your services. If you're not an Apex client, if you are, you're already in our program. If you're not, I invite you to scan this QR code. It will go to a practice assessment that our team will do for you at no cost. We'd love to talk to you and get to know you. I'll leave that up for a second. Let me go back. Oh shit, let me just go back here. I'll leave it up for a minute. Yes. Okay, I'll go ahead. If you need it, I can put it back and Chad has it. And we are wrapping it up, guys. Thank you so much for staying to the end. I know Chad's going to do a little raffle, but our 4S Summit, as I mentioned, it is a 2-day intensive, September 28th through the 1st in Dallas. I would love nothing more than for you guys to come and attend and spend the day, 2.5 days with myself, Dr. Saltz, Isaac, an expert panel in many different areas. If you guys want the blueprint, if this presentation resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, and this is just a tip of the iceberg of what we're going to touch and what we're going to cover. It's all about the financials. It's all about the sales. It's all about operations, everything that you guys need. I would love to see you there. There is, so again, we're going to do one raffle for someone to win a complimentary ticket to come at a value of $1,800. And then here's an exclusive 10% savings code. Thank you to Advice on offering this. You guys can scan this as well. And I'll leave that up for a second. And then here's where to find me, you guys. apexplatform.com to learn a little bit about what we do and our platform and how we service and help customers launch, grow, and scale. I have a podcast called In Touch with Terri. We put out 2 episodes a month. We're on our 8th season. So again, thank you. And so if you're our clients, thank you for being here. And if you're new, love you so much. Appreciate your time and for you guys showing up tonight.
Thank you, Terri.
Open for any questions. Yeah, if there's any additional questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll give people a minute or if they want to ask some additional questions.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, information. And we're, again, you said it right. We're tip of the iceberg is really where we're at. Really just trying to let people know what to be thinking about. One of the things that Terri and I were talking about before we got started tonight is, for those that have already heard this or kind of know some of this, it's about hearing it again, but then it's about implementing, and then it's about consistently doing it, right? Because there's so much noise that's out there. There's so many different voices that are saying, you should be doing this, doing that. Find it, and then stick with it and be consistent with it. And hopefully tonight maybe sparked some different, thoughts or questions of, boy, I need to do that a little better. I can bond with people a little bit more. Gosh, I haven't been listening to phone calls, or maybe it even sparked a question in your mind of, or saying, boy, I have trained somebody over and over again. They're still not doing it. And really the question is, why are they still employed? I mean, if I'm not looking for a raise of hands tonight, but how many of you are like still keeping an employee that you should have gotten rid of a long time ago? And that's, somebody raised their hand. Maybe they are saying, maybe that's them. But I've been guilty of that. And the salesperson, I'm like, oh my gosh, this salesperson, they've done something good before, and we've trained them, and I've held on to them for too long. And the reality is, they've already quit. They silently quit on me a while ago. And yes, it's a pain in the butt to go out and hire somebody new, but they are a reflection on the business. They are either going to help make you or break you. And if you can't, rehabilitate, if they're not going to get on board with accountability and being part of the program and being part of that team and that culture, you're going to have to make the tough choice, but you got to get rid of them. You need people who are going to buy into everything that we're talking about to allow you to be consistent and allow the practice to really get to those next levels. As you're talking about goals, are they bought into the goals? Are they part of it? Are they trying to help make those achievements happen? So, critical on all fronts. But I'm super excited to be in Dallas. We don't have any other questions coming in, but this has been recorded. So again, we will do. I'm going to pull up my list tonight with my manager over marketing. She's going to run the list, and we're going to, everyone who is here and attending, we'll run a randomizer. We'll put it out, and we'll notify that person tomorrow, tomorrow morning, of who won, and let you know. But I hope to see you as well in Dallas. Terri, thank you so much for taking so much of your time to be here with us tonight. You are amazing. The energy you bring is phenomenal, and the information you have is such a wealth of knowledge. So I continue to learn from you all the time. Thank you so much.
So much. And thank you guys for showing up. Thank you so much. I look forward to the opportunity to hopefully meet you. And if not, please don't hesitate to, again, reach out, Terri at terriross.com, DM me. Terri Ross Consulting is the Instagram. And I hope to see you guys at 4S. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Take care.
Chad.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.